On the behalf of all of us at Jefferson Road, we just would like to extend a thank you to the Board of Education. Thanks for coming out and spending the time with us. I'd also like to thank Karen Maslin for displaying our wonderful artwork here. The student portraits, those are the ones that end up on our tiles that grace our entryway. So it's a nice tradition that we have. And I'd also like to thank and acknowledge Kristen Dolan, who's here. She's my administrative intern who's done phenomenal work this fall, and she's going to be just an outstanding educational leader. So thanks for being here, Kristen. So a quick overview of the agenda. I always start with mission, vision, and values. I'll talk about our goals for this year. I'll also talk about some of the accomplishments from last year, and we'll go ahead and jump right in. So mission statement is something that's really part of the fabric of who we are at Jefferson Road. And I refer to this all of the time with my morning messages with students as I'm talking to kids and thinking through problems. I always reference back to our mission statement. And that's us as a school community at Jefferson Road working together to inspire our students to be their best, do their best, and make a difference in the lives of others. Our vision statement in looking ahead, we're always looking at trying to help our students become more intrinsically motivated by attending to their academic and social emotional needs. And then our values align completely with the district's values: student-centered, supportive environment for all, continuous improvement, being progressive, and collaborative. As we look at goals for this school year, it's really a carryover or partly an extension of goals from last year with our professional learning communities, and we take a lot of time and effort in those. In the past few years, we've really focused on the math portion of our professional learning communities, looking at essential standards, looking at assessments, looking at the curricular side of things. We've done a lot of work which is very much complete. However, with new staff coming in, a lot of that's going to be reviewing what those goals look like with new staff members coming in. In addition, we've done a lot of work thanks to the district with the writing curriculum and how that's extended into this school year. So really a carryover with math and extending into the writing. Obviously, it's an ongoing plan. You can never accomplish this work in 1 year. We're continuing with our staff meetings, mostly being devoted to professional learning community work. So tomorrow from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m., our teachers are going to be working in collaborative teams addressing the math and the writing and setting goals for this school year. In addition, we piloted data team meetings last year with a few grade levels, and that was very successful. So after universal screening points this school year, part of our professional learning community and looking at data and working together, we are having our data team meetings for every grade level to review where students are, looking at resources and figuring out how to help them move forward and become more successful. Part of a real focus this year has been focusing on the staff. Really, when we look at the makeup of our grade level teams, our third grade team is the only intact team from last year. Every other grade level has a new configuration of staff or brand new staff members that have come into the building. So for us, and for me personally, it was extremely important. We have a small school community. We're very tight-knit, very caring, very collaborative. It was important for us to make sure that everyone could feel that sense of collaboration and trust. We talk about that with our students, so if we're not modeling that as adults, then we're doing a disservice to the whole school community. So a great deal of time was spent looking at that already this school year. And that started with Superintendent's Conference Day. When we had our subcommittee from ILT look at what the agenda was going to be, I was pretty excited about the opportunity to collaborate and work together. When we first got together in the morning, our first activity was something that I had modeled during our opening day conference day. I called it Square Hats and Sombreros. For all intents and purposes, it's bringing in an artifact that represents something personal about you that can share something about yourself with a group so people learn more about you. And staff could take it in a very basic way, or people could choose to go a little bit deeper. And we set up in random groups, and people shared about themselves. Personally, I learned things about people that I've known for 6 years that I never would have known if we had not had this process. The only negative that people said about this was that we didn't have time to split up into other groups and to continue the conversations with one another. But the whole day, I would say that one of the highlights for me was a very veteran staff member said this was by far the most beneficial and the best superintendent's conference day that she had been part of, and others echoed that as well. The second part of the day, which was a real leap for me because I'm not a wonderful artist, we decided to take ceiling tiles from the building and do a mosaic in different teams. It was challenging for me, but it was a great deal of fun. It ended up being one of my favorite pieces because it's a representation, it's an artifact of how wonderful the day was. And we just had a lot of fun. There was a lot of planning and preparation that went into it, but the outcomes were tremendous. So I think you got a sense of that as you walk through the building. And then the second part of the day was really the learning, the brain sweat, the meat of the day, and that was looking at the updated report card work. We worked in vertical teams to look at that, and then came back to grade level teams, and then provided feedback to Melanie in her team, so they had a better sense as to how we felt and gathered data from the district. And then our paraprofessionals had some time to work with Denise Rizzo, Val Kenyon, and some other support staff, and they talked about the social skills building blocks and spent time really invaluable conversations related to that. So overall, it was a phenomenal day. People really felt connected, and that was the goal, for people to walk away feeling more connected to their colleagues. Mission accomplished. In addition, with a number of new staff coming in, this is something that I actually borrowed from Carol Schwab. A staff member said, you know, Carol used to run these meetings once a month for new staff, and I thought, great, let's do it. So once a month I have an agenda, and I invite, and it's voluntary, but I invite new staff members, either brand new teachers or teachers that are new to Jefferson Road, to come in and meet with me for about 45 minutes, and we just talk about the idiosyncrasies of Jefferson Road, certain events that happen. Each school has its own heartbeat, own culture, and it's really important for teachers to know just all the things that make our school what it is, and it's been really valuable for me. I think it's important to have that face time together, and it's supportive. It's being supportive to our staff. Some highlights from our social emotional learning work and reflecting on last year. I know last year my board report was in September, so I gave kind of a preview of what was to come, and now I'm able to share some of our outcomes and some of the great work that happened last year. We had 5 different themes that carried over for 2 months each. The first was the Share Your Care theme, where we had an assembly, and I shared a little bit about my background and why I am a teacher, and some of the things that people had shared with me, and how I share that with other people, some of my gifts. And it had kids think about that and write reflections about that, that all of us have greatness or things that we're good at, and how can we take that gift and share it with other people to make their lives better. When we got into November and December, compassion and kindness were the themes, which the book, the touchstone for that was Boxes for Katya, which is just a wonderful book. Kids really enjoyed, and staff enjoyed the books that went along with our themes. And that aligned so well with our in-gathering celebration. And you can see we almost hit the 3,000 donation item mark, which is almost 1,000 more than we've ever had. So every year, the donations and the giving of our small school community, so 350 some students, so they really raided their parents' cupboards, and staff chipped in as well. But you can see the smiles on the kids' faces. They get so excited about giving, which is tremendous. And the Pittsford Food Cupboard, who receives the donations, they share year after year that our donations are probably the strongest supports going into the holidays for needy families in our area. So that's nice for kids to know. The next themes were honesty and perseverance, and the book that went along with that theme is the Pumpkin Runner. This is an interesting story. This gentleman, his name is Cliff Young, and he ran at age 61. He never ran a marathon in his life, but chose to run the ultra marathon, which is a 543-mile foot race between Melbourne and Sydney, Australia. he not only competed, and only a handful of people compete in a race like that, because you'd just be crazy to run that many miles. He not only competed, but he won. And the reason he won, he just never stopped running over the course of days and days. He's a farmer. He would tend to his flock and run after on a thousands and thousands of acre sheep farm, run after his sheep and tend to them. So he was used to running around all the time. But he won this race. He broke the record by over a day. And again, he just kind of shuffled along. And when we had this presentation with the school community, I kind of dressed up in my overalls and wore gumboots because that's kind of the outfit that he wore. But it's a really interesting story. And one of my favorite parts is at the end, he didn't even realize there was a $10,000 prize for winning. So what he did was he split the money and took no money. He split the money with the other people that finished the race. So that heart for giving, and it's a very inspirational and very neat story. The next themes were integrity and courage, and the book The Empty Pot aligned with that. Another fantastic story. And after each story, we would talk about the books. I would go in and read to the students, and they would do reflections on it and try to connect it with their lives. And we decided that integrity was doing what's expected even when no one is around, and the book aligned very well with that. One of my favorites at the end of the year was when we reflected on tolerance and empathy. It was during one of our Pittsford Pride celebrations that I was introduced to this gentleman, Alan, who's done some tremendous work in the district with the Best Buddies program. And I spoke with Mr. Walker over at Calkins Road. I said, I'd really like to meet this young man. So he invited me over when he had his pizza party for Pittsford Pride. And I shared with him that we're doing these themes, and I thought that his message could really be powerful for our students. And he agreed to come over and speak to our kids about the Best Buddies program and how that related to tolerance and empathy. And after that, just the outpouring of, can we start this Best Buddies program? And the answer is yes. So this year, we will have our first year with our Best Buddies program. And it was just wonderful to have students see another student get up in front and share some of the wonderful work in the giving and how that relates to our mission statement. And Alan's just an amazing young man, and learning more about him. He's not somebody who feels comfortable being in front of a group, but really he did some coaching and went through some training to learn how to be a better public speaker and to put himself out there and to convey a message. And really it was impactful and powerful to the staff, to the kids, and even parents that were there. It was just very inspirational. And again, as a result, we have a Best Buddies chapter at Jefferson Road. We ended the year with our International Day, which we've done several times now. And we had over 27 countries represented. Many of the booths were run by our own parents and families. On the right-hand side, you see our Rise Against Hunger. Our students, all of our students had an opportunity to bag, it was 30,000, yes, like 30,000 bags of food that go to international causes. And Mr. Pirro looked great with the hairnet on, as I did too, the red hairnet, and I know he got to participate in that. But for the kids to be hands-on and to do something in giving was really was wonderful. And this is, again, one of my favorite things that happened right at the end of the school year. These were students that on their own, they came to me with an idea. They wanted to recycle crayons. And Mr. Clark, what do we do with our old crayons? Do they just get thrown out? Well, if so, can you give them to us? And what we'd like to do is separate them, melt them down, and make new crayons that we can give to needy families, needy schools, both in the local community and internationally. So just thinking about our mission statement and how that really, with many of our kids, just it's something that they take in and it becomes who they are, and that spirit of giving. And I mean, this is their summer break. This is a picture of them on their summer break, choosing to make a difference in the lives of others. So I get a little choked up because our kids are just so inspirational to me, just beautiful souls there. So some next steps this year, we went from a membership of about 5 for the last couple of years. And as I put out a feeler to see if more people were interested, we have 17 members this year for our social emotional learning committee. So it really is a brand new group. So one of the goals is to become a group and identify that all of us are there for different reasons. So we're trying to disseminate what are our goals going to be moving forward. So not being presumptuous and saying this is exactly what we're going to do, but if we want to keep that membership, people need to feel part of what's happening. So we did a little culling down of options. Right now we're looking at diversity, resiliency, inclusivity, and building connections, and we're going to filter that down a little bit more so we have a tighter focus. And within that as well, a focus on restorative practices, so finding peaceful ways for conflict resolution. And I have a meeting set up next week with the executive director of the Native American Culture Center to learn more about this philosophy called the good mind, which is what the Haudenosaunee used to create peace among the tribes. And it's just a mindset and a way of being that hopefully we can learn from and try to filter that down through our school community. Last topic, full day kindergarten. And I know you had a chance to stop in and see our kindergarten classroom, and I just wanted to share a few highlights. I asked Julie Wilson, who's a very veteran kindergarten teacher, so she spent many years with our half-day program, and I said, you know, comparing, and I know it's hard because we're just in October, but comparing half-day kindergarten to the full-day program, you know, what's something that really resonates with you? And without blinking an eye, she said, it's absolutely the relationships I have with the kids. I know these children better right now at this point in mid-October than I knew the kids at the end of the school year when it was half-day, which is pretty powerful. So when we think about that, there's more time for social interaction. There's more depth of the relationship between the teacher and the children with one another, as well as with the families. So I was a principal in a school that had full day kindergarten, so I know full well what our teachers are going to be able to accomplish, and I fully anticipate very positive social emotional outcomes as well as academic outcomes for our students. And they're just wonderful. Having them at recess, I know I shared this with a few of the board members, but first day, remember how warm it was. So when the kids came out for their very first structured recess or time outside before lunch, it was really warm, so I took them on a little tour, and they were like little ducklings following me along. But honestly, within 3 days of us teaching the structure of how to line up before they go in to lunch, the whistle blows, and in 10 seconds, they're in lines, they're ready to go. They're just so eager to please, and they're just such a gift to us each and every day. If I ever want to feel better about myself, I visit a kindergarten classroom, and you can't help but walk away with a big smile on your face. And then some of the unanticipated things that we learned. So from a support standpoint, we have 4, 5, and 6-year-olds that are part of our kindergarten program. So simple things like going through the lunch line, and some of the kids are so tiny they can't even grab the tray for their lunches. So having support staff accompany them and to help them with their lunches, and then understand what the choices are so they feel more comfortable. So it's been some flexibility, a lot of ongoing communication in supporting the teachers, supporting the students. But at this point, I couldn't be more pleased with the outcomes with our full-day program. It's just been tremendous. So with that, I would invite any questions.
Anyone?
Shawn, have you really been with us 6 years?
I have
That
been. Goes by fast.
I know, that does seem like a long time.
Well, Shawn, thank you so much again for the visit, and the tiles look amazing. So I don't know which ones you did, but they all look incredible. So I commend
I had
all
a team
of
and
the
a
effort.
partner. So.
I heard that you were very helpful putting them up. Is that true?
I was, yes.
Yes.
I brought in some of my carpentry skills and even trimmed some of the tiles to make sure they fit. They look really nice.
That's
It turned out-
impressive. So thank you. Thanks again.
There's a large order of whiteout that was. District office.
Ah, boy.
You approved that, though.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
fine.
Thank you.